Good afternoon. I'm Julie Drake, and we have Shine with Julie today. And in the house, we have Candice Dugger from Bullied, Broken, and Redeemed. And you are going to absolutely love what she brings to you today. I am blown away by what this family is accomplishing. So, Candice, without further ado, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
I can. And Julie, thank you for having me. It has been such a joy getting to know you and really the work you're doing here. My name is Candice Dugger. I am the founder of Bullied, Broken, Redeemed. I actually used to work in the mortgage industry, running kind of multi-million dollars to billion-dollar sales teams. Love what I did, but I had a very serious health illness that put me on bed rest for a long time. And it was during that time I saw how much my son was hurting. He was 12 at the time, and he had gone from joyful and happy and just full of life and love to broken and hurting, isolating, right? And I didn't, at the time, you always read these, oh, maybe it's a tween thing, a teen thing, maybe he's going through some, like you don't really know. I knew he was dealing with bullying, but not the extent of it. And it was during his 7th grade year that I actually almost lost my son to suicide. He had 3 attempts I didn't even know about, to be honest with you, how bad it was for him. And we ended up, ultimately, it's kind of a long story. You kind of go through the whole process. We tried to work with the school, but it wasn't working. And we ended up pulling our son out to homeschool. We actually tell people we telecommute as education, but to homeschool him. And it was through that journey that after he was home with me for a long time, Julie, he shared with me how much pain he was really in and what the abuse was like. And what was so hard for me as a parent is there's almost no help directly for parents. It's always go to the school, go to the administration, go to the teachers, which we did. And that put my son's life in more danger, that he was more terrified to even speak up again because of how bad it got after he did ask for help. And so through this process, we founded Bullied, Broken, Redeemed, and now we equip leaders and parents all over the world in understanding Gen Z bullying, because it is very different than what we grew up with. There's some things, like bullying's always been here since the beginning of time. It's part of sin nature. But what it is like now with that gaming bullying and cyberbullying, revenge porn, the 24-hour cycle, and how early it starts, Julie. I mean, in our work now, I have children. I call them babies. Children as young as 7, 8, and 9 with full suicide plans, that they have already have full plans because of the bullying they have dealt with. And so that's really how I started doing this work. So I run Bullied, Broken, Redeemed, and I'm also the founder of Reimagine Education Conference, where we help families find the best education platform if it's not working for their kids. Because for many families, it's not an option when you're in a mental health crisis.
Right. And, we met through an organization that is, homeschool CEOs. We're doing our own thing. We have our businesses happening. And, it can be an assumption, when you come in there, that people have always been entrepreneurs and now they've decided to homeschool. But your story is so very different. You actually pulled out of that work world and came home because of what was happening. And it really, you kind of had found your purpose in all this. It seemed, your family as a whole, it's so amazing what that one thing has done, and how, I heard it just in your brief introduction, how many families and how many children you have the ability to help through this. So had you ever wanted to be an entrepreneur before?
Well, I think I went to school and got my degree in industrial psych. So I really wanted to be in some form of sales or something. I mean, I always enjoyed that. But when you're in sales, your whole job is really bringing up, I was in charge of getting my own clients anyway. So you already have that entrepreneur aspect to you. But I will tell you, in our home, there's myself, my husband, my 2 kids. We have 4 CEOs and 6 businesses. Every one of my kids, both of my kids have their own business. And actually my son, who is just turned 13 on the spectrum, won the pitch competition through the Homeschool CEO, the Young Business Prodigies, on his business. So I have not only what I use entrepreneurship for, which I think is unique, is most of the families that I work with, when their kids are really hurting and broken, we either have the kids pick a passion project or a business as a way to build back their self-confidence in themselves. A lot of these kids don't fit really well in a traditional box, but they have a lot of deep passion and hurt. And so there's something there they can get back in. And so if we can help them get passion and excitement for life again, entrepreneurship is the perfect way to do that. help them find a business. And so my youngest son, who's 13, I haven't even shared with you, you think I'd get it, right? Like the bullying, I'd get it. I almost lost my oldest son. When my little one was 9 years old, he was dealing with what I call traditional bullying. The third grade, was having his face thrown in the urinal. He was getting punched and hit, the traditional in-school bullying. It was the day at 9 years old that I found him under the bed screaming, "I'd rather die than go back to school another day." 9 years old. That I said, "We can't do this anymore. I can't." And I pulled him out, fourth grade, and started homeschooling him. And he's only been home with me 3 years and is now a published author working on a second book and a spokesman for invisible disabilities, and has his own pet products and brands that he launches and teaches businesses and other kids how to interact with people with invisible disabilities and service dogs. And then he gives almost all of his money. He's one of those kids who doesn't want money. How many entrepreneurs don't want to work for money? My kid's like the only one who's like, "You can keep my money." And he gives it all away to help other veterans and service dog owners to be able to afford the food and the vet bills that they need for their dogs, because many of them are on limited incomes and it's expensive. Right. And so entrepreneurship has been a way for him to build back his confidence into trusting people again, and to be able to take his own pain, help others, and then give back and make this world a better place. So I think there's so many beautiful aspects of entrepreneurship, and that if we allow our children, as adults, we have so many amazing things, but if we can allow our children to have that at younger ages, they're far ahead of their peers in being able to manage, right? Really manage a life. Yeah.
Well, and you hear so much in society, it's been really plugged into our generation, go to college, get a good job. And I had a conversation not too long ago, just a couple of days ago, with a dad that was super upset that his son didn't want to go to college. This kid has made tens of thousands of dollars in a business in high school. And I'm like, "Dad, don't worry. Just don't worry. Encourage whatever path he's on. If he feels like school's needed in the future, he'll go, but it might not be for him. He might just have another path. And if he can do that in high school, he can do just about anything." I had a question for you on, as an entrepreneur, one of the things that creeps in every now and then is rejection. Sometimes you do pitch an idea or pitch a product and people say no. And has that affected your son at all? Or because of all of the confidence building, he's been able to overcome that kind of rejection?
So I will tell you, part of his personality is he actually can take no pretty well. He's one of those people that realize no doesn't mean no, it means not now.
Okay.
Right. He's almost like a little pit bull. I know if he gets a hold of something, I'm in trouble, because he is not going to back down. Like, I'm like, "You should be an attorney or something," because he's just going to say, "Okay." He either goes after the, "Okay, I can see that you don't see my vision yet," or maybe this isn't the right fit, but you probably know somebody I need to talk to. Right. So he doesn't give up. You're going to have to give him at least 5 no's before he's moved to a maybe. So I'm just telling you guys, if he gets you on a sales call, you are probably going to end up with, "I'm just going to buy at least a book so this kid will let me off."
Oh,
we're working on that. We're working on that, but
good.
A little bit with that, but it hasn't. More so with my older son, that's been a little bit harder. But I think that comes down to personalities. My oldest son works a lot in my work in mental health. He actually is a life coach. He's 17 now. He's in college classes. He wants to get his degree in psychology to help other people really be able to kind of step into that, but is not sure if he wants to go into the psychology aspect or into the life coaching. So he's doing both. He has his own business that he works with not young, but kind of mid-teens on up, who are having mental health crisis, those who would not go to therapy, as just a place to talk. He's actually gotten into blacksmithing and brings people into the forge with him and lets them bang out the metal and try something new, and then taking something old and broken and discarded and recreating it into beauty, and letting them have a place that they don't have to talk a lot, but he's there to support the conversations and loves doing that. And he's actually started working with me at the American Association of Christian Counselors back in 2019. And I think we're booked through 2023. His stuff sells out every year, first day. because he is a teen who experienced it and writes programs, talks about it, and actually is using things that teens would connect to, right? It's not out that it's women like you and I writing content for kids. He is out there in the work, doing the work, and creating content that connects to the heart, the edgier stuff with the rough words and the intensity content. And at 16, he got his first 4.0 and mom let him go get a tattoo. And he thought that was the coolest thing ever. I'm like, you got a 4.0 and whatever that inspiration is to you, but that's who he is. He thinks we need more kind of tougher men speaking about mental health. He works with a lot of athletes and really just wants to step into that space, but he doesn't handle the rejection side quite. He's not going to be as aggressive. I think his spirit is a little softer and right. He's not going to get a hold of you and make sure that we're going to connect. He's like, when it's time. And some of that, I wonder if that's a growing thing or if it's just personalities. I think as entrepreneurs, we're all wired differently, which is why our teams are so important to build other people around our teams that balance us out where we're not. So his brother is his attack dog. His brother will go get his accounts for him.
I need you to call this guy.
Yeah. You make sure you get the deal.
So do they get along well together, your brood?
They do. So I think it's been the last years, obviously, like a lot of people, we're all in the house, homeschooling and running businesses. It's intense and long. And they're phenomenal, but they're both competitive. I'm not going to pretend it's all rosy days and we're walking in the parks and it's wonderful because they are competitive. They're two men that, they are competitive. They support each other like nobody's business. They're fiercely loyal and they get along beautifully. But if they had the choice to spend every day, all day together or have some breaks, right? One is big into golfing, one's big into football, right? One goes off with their friends. They need that separation of time so that the relationship stays stronger. And I think that's one thing I've learned a lot in the last couple of years, that to keep all relationships really well, you need to have your own thing. Even for myself and my husband, we both run our businesses in the house, but we need our own thing.
How have you done that through COVID then, Candice?
I will tell you. So first, I feel very privileged that I feel blessed that my parents have a home near the lake about 200 miles, about 3 hours from where we live, which is actually where I am now. This is not my studio. This is my makeshift studio down here. And so I've spent a third to a half of the time down here. It's out in the country. It's near the lakes. My kids can golf and fish and all of that. My husband's business is up near DC. And so he physically, even though they're remote, has had to be up there for managing things like post office boxes and some client meetings. So he comes and goes. He actually came down last night, brought my son to me. I'll stay a week or two, go back, come back and forth. Sometimes I bring one child and I have one son with me because he's writing a second book. So he has to have time, quiet time for his second release. He has a business coach that he's working with and he has 13 client calls he needs to make this next week. And so he needs some focused, quiet time. He's somebody who does not, with his autism and his sensory, if it's too loud and too much chaos, he can't focus.
Right.
He's not the, what I call the Starbucks people that like to go in with the white noise around them. He needs pitch quiet. And so I try to honor that for him. My other son could have, I think, blaring music at 10 and he's perfectly fine getting his job done. I am kind of in the balance. So we come here, we'll work, homeschooling for us doesn't take long. It's a couple hours a day because it's our lives are our homeschool. I mean, my goodness, right? We're learning photography and every, you name it, things you wouldn't think of in publishing books and speaking. He can look at his even from polishing up like your business plan. I mean, how many adults even have solid business plans and can look at their 5-year projection numbers? And so he has it, he can tell you that in an instant. So a lot of that is our school.
Absolutely.
That's what we do. So we're going to go from here this morning. We actually were at a homeschool meetup group for about an hour in the park. We got up and worked a couple hours. We went to meet up with other homeschoolers that we're trying to meet here in the area. We're newer to the area homeschooling. So trying to meet new friends. And then we're going to work for a couple hours. And then we're going to go off and golf this afternoon and take some pictures while we're golfing for his new book. So even when we're golfing, we're taking photos. So we just try to make school and education and our businesses 24. We don't really run a set schedule, Julie. I don't come in my office from 9 to, I used to try to do that, but I found that now that my work has gone international and I am speaking like from Canada or Hong Kong, or I'll do shows in Malaysia on Saturdays, it's just not working for me anymore to have a standard time zone. And so I've had to learn to balance what's reasonable with breaks in between. So I'll go out and then I'll come back in the studio and record later tonight, probably from 9 to midnight when he's kind of quieter and is calmed down and him and his service dog can go to bed. I'll come in here when it's quiet and I'll record for 3 hours. So we just move our schedules around.
That's just incredible. I mean, it sounds like you guys have really found your niche as a family, which is so exciting to see. Now, you've touched on some pretty heavy things that, and maybe some listeners here are thinking, oh my goodness, my kid's quiet and he used to be outgoing, or my daughter is withdrawn and, I don't know what's going on. They won't talk to me. What are some things that parents should pay attention to? Because this might be going on and they're not even aware of it. So how would you counsel that parent to kind of know what to look for and what the next step might be if they think something's happened?
So if you think something's going on, and I will tell you guys, I did not do a great job at this in the beginning, right? I didn't know. I really didn't know the warning signs. I didn't know what I was looking at. And when my son came and shared little bits with me, as a parent, I overreacted and I said things that I really wish now I could take back. And for what I mean by that is he would come and tell me what was going on in little bits of information. And when our children are doing that, they're testing to see how safe we are. What am I going to do with the information? Am I going to run off to the school like I did and put his life in more danger? Or when they give us that information, are we willing to hear them and listen to more? Because if our children are coming to tell us a little bit, and I've got a bunch for you guys here, but I just want to share this because it was one of the things I so wish I could have done better. When he shared little bits, like with kids bullying him at school and him being attacked, my first response is, well, did you do something to instigate it, right? I thought we were dealing with conflict. And the difference is bullying is not conflict. And many parents treat it like it's conflict, and we give our children conflict resolution skills when the whole intent of the person bullying our children or in anybody, because bullying is not a school issue, it's a cultural issue. It happens in workplace, it happens everywhere. But I was giving him conflict resolution skills to solve it. And when he did that, he was hit back with more intensity, because the bully's goal is to overpower you, to break you down. The goal is it's abuse, right? It's abuse. And so if our kids are giving you information, even if they're dealing with bullying online, cyberbullying, any of these things, when they share that with us, that information is as more precious than any Bitcoin, any gold, any ruby. It is literally information that can save their life. And so let the whole tsunami happen inside your body. The hurricane and the storm can happen. Take a deep breath, right? And then ask the follow-up question of, wow, that must be hard. Would you tell me more? And then shush your mouth. And it's okay. You can freak out inside, but you need more information. And what you want to do is create a safe place that when they come and talk to you, you're not ripping away all the phones. How many of us parents, our kids make mistakes and we take away the phones and we're taking away the Xbox and we're taking away all these things? Well, if there's a crisis in the future, have you created yourself as a safe place to come and talk to them? Or are they going to worry that you're going to just remove all of those things again? And so if your kids are struggling with some of these things, a few warning signs, obviously isolation, withdrawal. If you find them on their phones or on Xbox Online and they're walking away frustrated, angry, full of tears, anger, it is something to think about, because a lot of times in those gaming situations or online, if they're not walking away joyful and happy from it, and we're walking away with reactions, it's just like, how would we respond if our children were at a park? If they walk away happy and joyful, we're like, okay. But if they walked away crying, screaming, frustrated, don't think it's just a part of the game. There's probably something more going on there that we need to pay attention to. Also, the withdrawal is a hard one, because for us, I think there's a natural part that happens, or at least I thought that happened with that. And now that I've actually started homeschooling my kids, I have found that bond between us is so much stronger. they don't really isolate her anymore. We've built this relationship that they can come and tell me about anything. And I think a lot of it is the work we do in these deep conversations, these hard conversations, right? When these conversations are happening, I'm not freaking out and ripping everything away. I look at my job as much as my kids are getting older. Yes, I'm your parent, but I'm also your coach. I'm here to help coach you up to the next thing. I'm help you to learn these life skills. And so many times we're expecting our kids to handle situations that they're not equipped to handle, Julie. We haven't prepared them. And so as a parent, if you're out there and you're not knowing what to do, how could we? First, I just want to say, how could we? We didn't grow up with this. It wasn't since 2011 when we started introducing these things, right? These things to our kids and online and everywhere. We didn't deal with it. And so we almost can't understand it. But on top of that aspect, we may have gone to bullying. We maybe went to an assembly and they put up a poster that said zero tolerance, which if anybody wants to come and talk to me about that, we're going to have a lot of conflict. So if anybody would like to talk about that, come find me. But that was all we were given. We were not prepared with how do you identify it. And most adults today, if I ask them directly, how do you identify if you're dealing with bullying? In our minds, we think we'd know, but when you actually stop to answer it, you can't really put it into articulating the difference. And so we really help parents understand, how do you identify and know when you're dealing with bullying? When does it cross the line that you need the help? How do you heal back from it? How is it affecting the mental impact? Because Julie, I can't tell you how many adults I work with from the corporate world, because I do Fortune 100 company training all the way through training leaders in the homeschool community. How many come to talk to me afterwards that say, I can still feel the pain of being bullied as a child. No one helped them move past that. And so it gets stuffed down. And then when our own kids are dealing with it, if no one helped us come through it, how do we prepare? Or how do we help our children, not only with the basics of like in-person bullying, but then how do we handle revenge porn? Most parents don't even have a clue. Like, how would you deal with that, or cyberbullying or gaming bullying? And 9 years old is the average age of cyber and gaming bullying, 9 years old. And we're seeing bullying starting at 3 years old now by kindergarten. And so, and the shift has been what we expected middle school. Fourth grade is the new middle school, right? So that's actually one of the next workshops we'll be releasing. Fourth grade is the new middle school. That kind of 9-year-old is what 12 or 13 was. And what we think of fourth grade is now kindergarten. The introduction of information as a society, as we've moved along, has grown. And then unfortunately, we also have a group of teenagers who may have more information given to them, but they're also then not getting their driver's license, going on dates, taking jobs, those responsibilities to step into to build confidence, those aren't there in our youth either. So we have this kind of perfect storm of they're being given a lot of adult comfort information and they're being attacked with a lot of it emotionally, yet they don't have that other aspect of their self-confidence or other areas that they can escape from or have that have built confidence in them to offset it, right? Because that's gone. And so they then lean back into the same things that they're doing to reach back for that validation. Because we're all a little bit wired to be able to want to be validated, right? We lived in tribes and communities. We all grew up wanting to be validated. And it was important. You wanted to be validated, but validated by like 10 to 100 people, not hundreds of thousands of millions of people. And so when you opened yourself up to criticism or feedback in your community, it was normally somebody looked you eye in the eye. They weren't keyboard warriors attacking you. They knew your character and your intent and your heart. And so when they gave you feedback, it was honest feedback that was worth really probably more self-reflection than people just attacking you online.
Well, and attacking online is so much easier because there isn't that physical interaction. So there's, less of, I think, an impact or a thought impact of how does that affect the other person. It's truly one-dimensional. And I think that is, it just breeds that kind of, we see it on Facebook. Holy cow, in this
everywhere, right? Oh, I actually don't go on Twitter. That is the only platform I have just decided. I'm like, you know what? Here's my policy. That is a dumpster fire. I'm not going over there. So I hang out a lot in Clubhouse and Instagram and Facebook. And I've even gotten into TikTok. Oh my gosh, Lord help me. It's a mess. It's not good. It's not, but that is where people are going for information. And what my hope is to also teach people, because many, even adults, don't know how to handle criticism and feedback and negativity that they're getting hit with their business. And so I want to teach them, how do you take that negative feedback online and not internalize it? And when do you know, how do you handle that emotion? Because we don't really know. And so I think that's a big conversation, especially if you're wanting to stand up and talk about your beliefs, or maybe your religion or your politics. You're going to get hit online. How do you know that personal self-reflection of knowing when that criticism is something you might need self-reflection for, or when to let it go, right? And how do you engage with people in a way online that everybody's looking to be heard and no one's looking to listen. And so creating space for more listening is important.
I have really opened my eyes just reading through your stuff. I'm going to flash up here how you can get a hold of Candice, because
I'd love to talk to you guys. Oh, I love your that and your colors. Look at that. It's so fancy.
Her website is below here, and you have a couple of different programs that people can tap into. What is the biggest one you want to highlight? The most popular, the one that gets the most results for the people that you've worked with?
I'm very excited. May 12th, we have a huge new class release. This is one that I've done all over the country that I normally do in person. And it's more than I can even do in person. I've expanded it to 16 classes, exactly what we're talking about. And it's actually for leaders, parents. We actually have many coaches, homeschool parents use it, but it can be used as a high school curriculum too for high schoolers. And we walk you through all of these things we've talked about today, from what does leadership look like in this digital world? How does mental health affect it? What does social media addiction look like in our youth? How do we handle workplace bullying, adult bullying? So we cover all of that. And then we also have, you guys, I mean, on our website, you can find tons of it. I probably have tons of them here. We have 6 books. We have tons of books and workbooks and all kinds of parent stuff up, which I think is just a matter of where you're meeting. If if you know your child is in crisis, I have a Facebook group that's free. You can hop in there for information. We do some private one-to-one consulting, but this class is a phenomenal place. It's something I've always offered only in person and at corporate and leadership training, but it occurred to me that I can't be everywhere, and I really want families to have access to phenomenal training and information without having to travel. Right? Because, I can only be so many places, and I don't know anyone else doing this work. So I'd love to connect with you guys. And if you are leaders out there, I'd love to come speak to your groups, because I don't think many people, they think they know bullying, but when you unpack the conversations we've had today, when we can raise leaders to make change, when we can take this generation and equip them and empower them, not only are we saving lives, but then we're teaching them how to make policies for the future, because they're going to be the ones who are effectively leading. And in the process, we heal the adults who are still broken.
Absolutely. Candice, I have so enjoyed our time together today. Thank you. And everybody go over and give Candice some love on
I would love that.
Awesome. And until next week, this is Shine with Julie. Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.